Hey guys, welcome to the Perfect Escape channel. I'm so excited to post another video. I know it's been a minute, and yeah, I definitely want to come on here to continue a lot of the series that I started. But today I want to more so talk about triggering, okay? Um, so triggering is a part of life, right? We all go through experiences in life that sometimes we have to move past quickly without um, dwelling on it too much because we have other things on the 3D and in our lives that consume us, where we have to move forward until sometimes things come back up due to a certain event or experience or thing, and then we're brought back to what we had to get away from initially to promote healing and growth in that area. So, when it comes to triggering, for an example, if you grew up and you weren't seen by a parent, and then you get older, and then you get into a relationship with someone, and the relationship is really good to the point where you guys are able to be close enough for that person to have an impact on your personal development and experiences, and more so in a good way, in a positive way, to promote growth. But that person also has the ability to come into your life to show you some things that maybe you need to work on, maybe you overlooked, maybe you didn't realize about yourself until a triggering happens where that person kind of mimics that experience that you experienced in the past with your childhood or with your growing up. And it brings back up that memory of feeling that void, of feeling that loss or sense of need that never got fulfilled. So, in essence, you get triggered. And sometimes when you get triggered, it's like you automatically revert to a fight or flight emotion. Usually a lot of the times, I would find it more so 80% of the times, majority of people take the flight mode of away from the triggering, whether it's completely sweeping it back up under the rug and not addressing it, or they run away from that person or experience so that they don't have to go back and have a realization that there is an aspect of themselves that they have not worked and worked from and improved. And so when they get triggered, they get afraid. That is a completely normal feeling to have, to be afraid when you get triggered and to completely try to shun it away. But essentially, why you're getting triggered over and over again is so that you can promote growth from within yourself, to no longer have to run away, but instead face whatever that trigger brought head on so you can heal. Okay? Um, People come into our lives, and it could just be as simple as someone not wanting to, I don't know, maybe have a one night stand with you. They want to actually be in a relationship with you. And then you're so used to maybe having casual experiences that when that person comes into your life and they say, hey, I want to take this further. I want to get to know you more personally, one on one. And I want it to just be exclusive. I want it to just be us. That can sometimes promote triggering to someone who's used to operating in a certain way, although it may not have brought them actual fulfillment. It could still be a triggering event for that person to not want to move forward in a way that will be fulfilling and for their best benefit, because it could be something that they always wanted, but then again, it became foreign and they got comfortable with operating and whatever way they were operating from that point on. Okay? So triggering is essential to life. And in my life, I have become more comfortable with the idea that triggering should be a part of my life. Like, it's not anything that I necessarily want to say I want to never happen to me over the lifespan of my life, even though it can sometimes be painful, because I realize that it does promote growth. It does promote growth in all aspects of who you are as a person to become the best version of you. And I find that the reason why I wanted to come on here and talk about triggering is because a lot of people get shamed for addressing their issues head on, or not being afraid to look at both aspects of a situation versus only being narrow minded and not having the capacity to look at a situation from all aspects so that they can make the best decision for themselves. Some people are actually resentful of things and people who come into their lives, and they trigger them into having an epiphany that may benefit them. They may actually push that experience away. And I just want to come on here to talk about how triggering should be normal, and that how some people are used to not changing, or not realizing things, and instead they want to shun it away. Now we have like examples nowadays, like, oh, the old heads, the older people, the older generation, they're more stubborn, they're more narrow-minded, they're more comfortable with the experience that they had, and they don't need any more new experiences to have them think it's another way outside of what they already know, right? And triggering is not a part of that experience. Triggering is a part of experience where you want to grow mentally, emotionally, physically, and for your better environment. Triggering is essential to your life. And why I say that is because even if you have the most smoothest karma, or if you have a lot of luck in your life, because that does exist in some people's lives. People do have it better than other people in some aspects of life. Some people have more luck, and they have it a lot easier where they don't have to go through a lot of deaths and transformations and triggerings and lessons and karma and all that. That's why I say, when you get into relationships, or when you procreate with someone and you bring someone into this life, be sure that you know who that person is from the inside out, meaning their generation and their bloodline, because that will have an effect on your child's experiences, that your child's karmas, your child's environment, your child's life. But that's a video for another day. Triggering is essential to a person who wants to promote growth, because we're none of us are perfect. We all go through life attaining what we have, and conjuring up what we know in order to navigate this life in the best way that we know how, right? But triggering is something that is absolutely um up to you. It's absolutely negotiable. Like, someone could come into your life and they could trigger you, and you could just be like, you know what, I don't want to deal with it, unless you're like unless you're like a highly vibrating soul, like where you have to gain these experiences and have to face your demons in order to heal versus hurt, because that's the opposite of healing, is hurting, right? And so triggering is an uncomfortable feeling. Like, a lot of people who are more lighthearted or easygoing, or just kind of like to sweep things up under the rug, or even like to make because we should all laugh about the hard times in our lives, right? We should all like accept our experiences for what they are and move throughout life without a heavy heart. And triggering absolutely does do the opposite, and it can do it in an absolute instant, where you may not even realize that this emotion that you just felt was for growth, and that you should face that emotion head on instead of running away from it. Like, it's absolutely up to you whether or not you take a triggering experience and transform it into a greater knowing, right? Like, triggering could even be the smallest form of, hey girl, for an example, I had a really good friend for a very long time, and she worked into retail, and she was a boss, and she was really good at what she did. And I used to be like, hey girl, these little shops and stuff that you're working are cool, but you should get into a exclusive Louis Vuitton, or you should get into Gucci, or you should get into one of these mainstream places so that you could actually take yourself up out of the store and maybe get yourself a role in fashion, because like in the industry, like become someone's personal stylist, or become a buyer or merchandiser or something like that, or even have your own store so that you could take these smaller boutique areas that you've mastered, then take it to the next area where it's like a better well-known place to be able to have you get certain networking opportunities, to get the ultimate opportunity to set you up. And me having that conversation with her was very triggering. And I didn't even realize it initially, that I brought a new perspective that a person cannot always um embody or accept or process in that very moment, but they have to kind of go and think about it. And initially, what I did was trigger that person, because it was an uncomfortable realization that, hey, I have the opportunity to grow from this, but what I know now isn't what I'm used to, and it feels uncomfortable. So I rather not. A lot of people just rather not. When something comes into their life, and they get triggered by something, like, oh shoot, I had that past experience before, but I remember I had that opportunity before, but I remember that I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know the right way to go about it. And so I just moved forward without even addressing it. And then someone comes into their life and be like, remember? And then they get triggered. You know what I'm saying? So, that isn't always the best feeling of emotion, because a lot of the times triggering can bring an absolute change and transformation to your entire experience, your entire environment. Like you're going to start handling money differently. You're going to start speaking to people differently. Your relationship's going to have some type of change. I mean, just depending on what area of triggering that you get triggered by. Most successful people get triggered all the time, and they take that experience and they transmute it. They transmute it and channel it in a way that's beneficial to them. They automatically say, hey, I'm triggered by that. Like, I recently had a conversation with someone, and I didn't even realize that it was triggering to them, but then they made that change from within that conversation, because they realized, oh, I need to work on this. And not, and I was happy that they didn't ignore that, because a lot of the times I've been guilty of that too, of being triggered in a way where I don't know how to handle it, because sometimes the triggering can be so painful and so deep that from that point on, you don't really know how to address it, especially if you're not supported in the way that you know enough information on how to transmute that energy and to actually heal from that area of triggering. Triggering is not a bad thing. Triggering is for your benefit. Not everyone has the same experience in the process of what triggering might entail or how painful it might be, but it's absolutely important to a successful person. You cannot go through life being successful without being triggered, because triggering promotes growth within you, whether you like to hear it or not. Now, we all do have the option. Like I said, a lot of the times parents get triggered the most by their children, and then they go into the, hey, I know better than you. Like, hey, I'm your authoritative. Um I'm your parent, and you can't tell me what to do. But a lot of the times, that child, because children have such innocence and purity, they come into your life and they tell you the truth. They trigger you. They trigger some of your wounds, and then you're like, oh no, this is not going down like this. You don't know no better. Stay in a child's place. When in actuality, that is your time to be able to receive the information, to grow and to become not afraid of that trigger, and actually grow from it. And then you start receiving different benefits in your life, because then you're able to handle whatever that triggering was blocking in the first place, because essentially a trigger comes into your life because there was some type of block that was going on from within you that is trying to unblock and for you to heal, right? And I just wanted to talk about triggering because a lot of the times during spiritual awakenings, you get triggered into a spiritual awakening if you don't kind of take the nudges from the universe, when it comes to like synchronicities and certain nudges from, the universe trying to warn you or forewarn you that you're about to go into some type of change. Sometimes a trigger can come into your life and do that to you, make you face it head on, and it could be more painful than it has to be, right? But people get triggered all the time, and I just wanted to come on here and talk about that because a lot of the people who are narrow-minded and they don't want to grow and they like to sustain whatever they've gathered up in their experience at that point in moment, then they are the people who shame the people who bring the triggering onto them, and they snap because they're uncomfortable with that feeling and that emotion that the triggering brings, because it could possibly hit a wound or a void that needed to be addressed. But instead of going deep into that place, they'll rather just move forward with that whatever experience that they're going through at that moment and not promote growth within themselves. But yes, I wanted to come on here to talk about triggering and how much it means to me and how essential it is for you to be triggered during, your experience in this life to grow and to become, a successful person, emotionally mature, emotionally intelligent, and how important that is when it comes to your relationships in life, your direction and purpose in life, and also who you are as a person, getting to know your own self reflection. Okay, this is your girl, The Perfect Escape. I'm so happy to tend to my channel again. I'm going to nurture and love my channel. I absolutely love you guys, and thank you so much for